Good morning, all. Before we get started, let's do a quick check. Can everybody hear me? Can everybody online hear me? Give us a thumbs down if you cannot. That's an interesting dilemma, isn't it? If you can't, how do you know? Okay, I think those are thumbs up. I'll take that as an okay. If there are needs, especially from the Zoomers, let us know. We will pause and we will fix whatever technical issues we have. We have a little practice with that. We're getting pretty good at it. I want to introduce Al Martinez back again, tickling the keyboards for us. Sounded very nice. Let's make the move. That's waking everybody else up. As I ring this bowl, let's relax into this common time and space, realizing that we do need to be together. We yearn for connection, the familiar faces of friends, and the sound of shared voices. Good morning to our friends, members, and visitors, both here in the sanctuary and those joining us on Zoom. Our mission is to inspire, inform, and support all who seek spiritual and personal growth and a more equal and just community. I am Jan Sprinkle, worship leader today, joining Reverend Sue Browning for our service. Now let's all turn around, face the camera, and give a hearty wave and good morning to our Zoomers. All right. We have quite a list of announcements, and don't worry, it's all good. As we gradually continue to reopen from the COVID restrictions, we hoped to begin limited coffee service, but we're not all together yet and we don't have coffee makers. So just put that in your bag of volunteerism that you might consider. We will continue congregational singing from our hymnals without masks. They are available on the seats in front of you. And recognizing that most of us have not sung for about 2 years, we're staying with familiar tunes. Hopefully, most of us know and can sing without too much practice. And those of you on Zoom, of course, are welcome to sing along. The Stewardship Committee, if somebody from Stewardship Committee wants to correct me for this, I will be glad, has wrapped up a successful fund drive, pledge drive. So I encourage everyone to check out the status on the chart in the lobby. If you have not pledged, please consider it. And the basket remains on the table in the lobby for checks and donations. And also donations from the Zoomers can be made either online or using the donate button on the UUCR website. Another announcement, thanks to the generous contributions of this congregation, the March Outreach Collection in support of Sumner Hall's Civil Rights Bus Tour, over $2,600 was raised. That's enough for 3 scholarships, sponsoring 3 young people for this trip. That is great. I would like now to welcome Annie Richards, Shore Rivers, and that's she's going to cover the focus of our April outreach collection, and she'll give you some details about what's coming.
Morning. Thank you all for having me. It's such a pleasure to see all of you again from Zoom to real life and be with you all in this space. Shore Rivers is a river protection organization that covers the Sassafras River all the way down through the Choptank. I'm the Chester River Keeper, and I spend my days advocating for the best possible outcome for our river, whether that's bringing back water quality, reducing bacteria levels, improving public access for everyone. The Chester River is an incredibly important piece of my life. I grew up here on the Chester River, and in speaking with many of you all, I know what an important piece of your life it is too. So it feels great to be speaking with you all today. When donations are made to Shore Rivers, the donations go straight to action on the ground to improve water quality in our local watersheds. A really great example of something that's coming up that'll be work across this watershed starting in May and going through September is our bacteria monitoring program, which is made possible through our swim tester volunteers. This is part of our Swimmable Shore Rivers program. Our Swimmable Shore Rivers program essentially states that everyone has the right to clean water. Everyone has the right to know if their rivers are clean, and they have the right to access those rivers. And so bacteria monitoring is one piece of that Swimmable Shore Rivers program. We have 13 sites across the Chester River, starting in Millington and going all the way down to Jackson Creek on Ken Island. Each of those sites are monitored by a fleet of volunteers that donate their time every Thursday in the early morning to go to those public access sites and collect a water sample, which is brought back to the Chestertown lab, where we process those samples, which incubate overnight, and then we're able to read out the bacteria levels and publish those on social media, on local radio stations, as well as a website called theswimguide.org, which is available to everyone. And I encourage you all to check out this website if you find yourself about to go swimming or kayaking or recreating in your waterways this summer. It's an easy way for you to know if there's been a spike in bacteria in that part of the river. And it can help keep us all safe, our dogs safe, our children safe as we're recreating in these waterways. This program runs from, as I said, May through September. And that's when, because of the heat of the water, is the most likely time when bacteria levels will spike. But rain is also a huge revealer of what we're doing to our land and the land use practices that we have that impact our waterways. And so this is also, while it's a wonderful public service that we can offer to all of you, it's also a way for Shore Rivers to start source tracking and figuring out where these pollutants are actually coming from. And can we put restoration projects in the ground to mitigate that and make sure that it happens less and less every year. So the cost of sponsoring one whole site every year, Shore Rivers looks to sponsor these bacteria sites because it just comes out of our general funding. This year, currently, we have just about 50% of our sites sponsored already, and the season hasn't even begun. So that's very exciting. We still have sites like Millington Waterfront Park, Crumpton Landing, Jackson Creek, Jackson Creek was just sponsored. Eastern Neck Island, Skinner's Neck Landing, and Broad Neck Landing are all in need of sponsorship this year still. So the cost of sponsoring one of those sites is $640 for the season. That covers all of the scientific equipment that we use to test weekly. And everything else is covered by our staff time and the dedicated time from our volunteers. So every dollar makes a difference for providing this service to the community. And thank you for making a decision as a congregation to support us this month. We really appreciate it.
Having accompanied Judy on some of the testing, I can say it's quite rewarding and kind of fun. Let's move on to the chalice line.
We light this chalice as a symbol of the light within all creation. We light this chalice for truth. May the search for truth be with us always. We light this chalice for love. May the love for others be strong in our hearts. Watch this. He's got a knife out. What could go wrong? Yay. Oh, yeah.
Their little Swiss Army knife can do anything. So today's sermon is busy and tired, tired and busy, busy and tired. And we all, I think, are familiar with that sensation. So ponder these words from Henry David Thoreau. Why should we live in such a hurry and waste of life? We are determined to be starved before we're hungry. I wish to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life. I wish to learn what life has to teach, and not, when I come to die, discover that I have not lived. I do not wish to live what is not life. Living is so dear, nor do I wish to practice resignation, unless it is quite necessary. I wish to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life. I want to cut a broad swath to drive life into the corner and reduce it to its lowest terms. If it proves to be mean, then to get the whole and genuine meanness of it and publish its meanness to the world. Or if it is sublime, to know it by experience and to be able to give a true account of it. Let us now turn to hymn number 16, something that we should recognize. Al will play it through once, and then we will sing it once. I think will be enough. Yeah, okay, go ahead. Tis a gift to be simple, tis a gift to be free, tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we have the friends in the place just right, we'll be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, we bow and we bend and shan't be the same. Though turn will be our delight, till we turning, we come round right.
Good morning. Thank you. Just seeing who is awake and paying attention. Welcome, Annie. Thank you for telling us about our outreach collection and the different ways that we can make donations and improve our community. I want to start us in this morning of thinking about places that were busy and places we're tired and busy and tired and tired and busy. To start with gratitude. I invite us into a time of reflection. These words are from Michael Leduc.
Do we need a time? Let's let John, while we're all reflecting, make sure he's got all the right buttons pushed.
I've never seen that one before.
Okay. Yeah. So as we take a breath, may we look to gratitude upon this day for the beauty of the world, for the radiance of dawn and the last smoldering glow of sunset. Let us be thankful for physical joys, for hills to climb and hard work to do, for music that lifts our hearts in one breath, and for the hand clasp of a friend, for the gracious loveliness of children who remind us of the wonders of life. May we be appreciative above all for the concern and love of all those around us, for the exceeding bliss of the touch of the holy, which suddenly awakens us from the drowsy souls that we can be, that awakens us to a blessed awareness of the divine within each of us and the divine within others. Let's just take a moment and think about what it is this morning we are each grateful for. Imagine all of the gratitude that each of us just listed. Imagine that filling this room, surrounding us with a gentle touch that we need this morning. Part of our time of reflection is to acknowledge the joys and concerns, the acknowledgements of our heart that have gone on for each of our lives. And Jan will lead us through acknowledgements of the heart today.
For those of you in the sanctuary who would like to share, just come forward and you can speak into the microphone from here. Those of you who are on Zoom, you can either activate the little raise hand function. I've never been able to find that function. Or just wave and get the tech people's attention and you'll be able to share then. But first, as we regularly share, I will light a candle for COVID victims, families, the frontline workers, everybody who has suffered from this pandemic or is recovering from surgeries and accidents. We will also light a candle for those in Ukraine and the surrounding areas affected by the Russian invasion. The horrible challenge of this man-made travesty, especially after enduring the pandemic, must be almost unbearable, and the destruction obvious from news coverage it's just awful. I will light those two candles and then open the podium here for those of you who would like to share.
Morning. We lit a candle for Larry Samuels, I think, a week or so ago. I just like to light another one for him. His service is tomorrow. Larry was such a wonderful supporter. PFLAG with Linda, James Taylor Justice Coalition, Sumner Hall. He pitched in and was so supportive of everything. And he was I think he was a closet UU. He sympathized with us, even though his wife was a minister at the Episcopal Church. So anyway, rest in peace. And on Thursday morning, my niece-in-law, my brother's son's wife, was taken off life support, and she died that afternoon on Thursday. She had been struggling for 6 weeks, kicked off with COVID, and her lungs just wouldn't make it anymore, and she passed on Thursday. And then I'd like to light a candle for you. That $2,600 is an amazing amount of money for a congregation this small to donate. I just want you to know how much I appreciate that. That's really generous. Three kids will go on this trip because of you. And we're really excited about it. And in a few weeks, if you're interested, you too can go. It will be cost about $800. That's 5 nights in a hotel and the bus trip down there and your entrance fees to the sites. So it's a pretty good deal. So if you're interested, keep an eye out when we publish it, and I would encourage you to sign up fast because I think those seats are going to go quickly on those buses. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I want to take this time to thank Reverend Sue and Nancy and Terry for helping me through this process, me and my children through the process of celebrating the life of Denise. We couldn't have done it without them. And also all of the cards I received were wonderful. The comments were great. I really never realized how lucky a guy I was, but thanks again.
Is there anyone online responding? So for these joys or concerns shared, and those that have been kept in our hearts, let's please observe a moment of silence. Blessed be.
Thank you, Al. So I think the title of this sermon came because one of the things I have to do is I always have to figure out what are you going to preach about a couple weeks ahead. And I was checking in at various meetings and people just kept saying, I'm so busy. I'm so busy. So busy. So that's how the title came about. So there was a steadfast presence in my life for almost 40 years. At that? Let's see. Yay. Go Nancy. Tech team and board president. How cool is that? So a steadfast presence in my life for almost 40 years was my mother-in-law. I've talked about her before. Her name was Joyce, and she personified, at least my understanding, of a very basic New England life. She was a homemaker, mother to 4 children. And as her kids were older, she worked in a preschool. Then she directed Christian ed at the Congregational Church, the same church where she was baptized and ultimately buried. And she actually, by the 1980s, managed a small social service agency. She valued work. She valued children, and she valued community. Year after year, she did her part. And she had a list every day. She was following her mother's example. We actually have her mother's, my husband's grandmother's diaries, and it doesn't talk much about what she did as a human being. It's the list of accomplishments: hung out the laundry, dropped bread at Dottie's, took care of the grandchildren. And my favorite, I finished hooking the dining room rug. She literally would make the rugs in their house. Bill's grandmother passed this sense of productivity to Bill's mom. When Bill's mother would work, when my husband's mother would work from sunup to sundown at the annual Christmas fair, which is just a huge event, she would just collapse in her rose-colored recliner. I can picture it now. And she would say, "I'm tired. It's a good tired." People heard that expression, "it's a good tired." That's what she'd also say if we had a day at the beach. It was fine to have a purpose of just spending the whole day at the beach, or a day planting flowers. She'd cap off these days with a simple supper. It was often franks or beans, and it was New England. It often was fish chowder. It would be a good tired. I'm wondering if we asked Bill's mom to check in, though, at the beginning of a meeting, whether she would actually say she was busy. Would she say she was busy in the way I hear that phrase used today? I think we've gotten in a habit. I don't know how it all started, but when somebody says, "How are you?" we often answer something like, "It's been just so busy. It's just crazy. It's been insane." I think after folks give that answer, there's often a sigh. Often we might hear a little bit more. And what's really striking me is we hear this from folks that I know through my congregations. We hear it from those who are parenting. We hear it from young adults, those in college, and even from middle schoolers and high schoolers. Has something changed that we think of busyness differently? In a 2021 journal article, there was a therapist named Jody Clark, and she concludes that, yeah, something has changed. She says this: culturally, there has been a shift in the status of the perception that material objects are no longer good enough. That's not the indicator of one's social standing. Now it's individuals who are busy at work, if they're overworked and have no leisure time, that is what brings in a sense of higher status. Research indicates that an individual's perceived level of busyness may be heavily connected to their self-worth, as well as how others view them. Individuals who are busy by choice may feel needed, in demand, and important, elevating those feelings of self-worth. I don't know. I'm going to ask us all to think about this together. Maybe it is that our days are fuller than my mother-in-law's were, but I'm not thinking that's probably the case. She sewed, I think, every band uniform for, 10 years, repaired everything in the 50s and the 60s and 70s. I think it's maybe more our sense of the experience. Busy is a very loaded word. Back in 2015, Megan Wickland wrote an article in the Washington Post, and she said, the title of the article was 6 Reasons You'd Be Happier If You Stopped Saying Busy. She wasn't saying don't have a full life, but it was a caution about this word busy. She asks, when busy is used as a response to how are you, what are your real emotions about being busy? It's okay, she says, to be honest. You may feel stressed out or anxious. those are feelings that the other person can understand and connect with. It also helps you understand how you are. So she's not saying, don't say I'm stressed and anxious, but if that's what's tied to busy, say that. She said the busy isn't a feeling in the same way if we're sad or afraid or angry. So I ask us to think about it. Is the busyness we sometimes feel, is it a stressful busy, or is it that good tired my mother-in-law would use, that phrase? Is it a happy busy? Is it something that maybe you have some regrets about and you wished you were spending time differently? Wicklund shares, if you really you need to sum up your life of activity, try using words like it's eventful, it's involved, it's lively, rather than busy. I'm so busy can sometimes signal to folks that you can barely fit them into your life. It can say, I'm here, I'm squeezing this activity in between the one I just came from, the one I'm going to, and I'm about to return to chaos. Please don't ask me to do more. My priorities are set. It's a word that doesn't always get to that next layer, and I think it's important we get there. If you hear somebody and they say, hey, can't help with that right now, for the next couple months, I'm going to be planning my high school reunion, people go, oh, okay, I can understand that. Thank you. Glad you said no. That was good. And sometimes we are crunched for reasons that are way beyond our control. If we've got health issues, or if we've got a close family member or friend, there is a busyness that does require a special focus. Sometimes we do just need to clear that calendar, deliberately or not. It's good to break down what is behind the sigh. And then sometimes busy is an exhilarated busy. I'm doing so much and loving it. We all need to hear those pieces too. I was recently with somebody and she had just spent time in Jamestown with an 11-year-old grandchild. She said, I walked my 10,000 steps by 11 in the morning and then walked another 10,000. It was a feeling of busyness that she couldn't imagine being anywhere else. When Jan and I were looking for readings to today, he found the Thoreau one, but he also sent me this other one, which I think is worth sometimes thinking about what it is that has our lives spinning. Jan reminded me of the white rabbit in Alice in Wonderland. I'm late for a very important date. No time to say hello, goodbye. I'm late. I'm late when I wave, I lose time, I save my fuzzy ears and whiskers. It took me too much time to shave. I run and then I hop and I hop. I wish I could fly. There's a danger if I dare to stop. And here's the reason why. I'm overdue. I'm in a rabbit stew. Can't even say goodbye. I'm late. Does that capture sometimes how you feel in your life? That poor white rabbit was so afraid to stop, didn't even have time to do the basic act of shaving. Whether our lists are filled with activities or choice or necessity or unavoidable demands, our bodies, our whole bodies hold that feeling of busy. At times, our minds churn with our next decision, our options, and our spirit feels the weight of all this churn. I add to that the world news. Few of us are actually busy with the world news, the war, racism, financial concerns, climate concerns, and the pandemic. There is a fullness, there is a busyness that even comes on top of everything else we're going through as we digest all this input around us. Everything we're taking in is feeling heavy on our bodies. And I also think when I think of the news, it's good to remember that's the news that's coming at us. There aren't news reports of successful church fairs or family days at the beach or planting spring flowers. I think we do need to remember to supplement the news and to limit that part of our diet. We can sometimes feel busy just by taking all of that in. So we do need to pause regularly. We're going to try something slightly different right now. Whether it's 30 seconds, 3 minutes, 30 minutes. We hear the phrase a lot, listen to your body. I know folks want more content, but we're actually going to pause together. We're going to try this for a short pause. So if you can, as you're comfortable, put your feet down. Each step here in this guided meditation, take in a breath. Just be aware of your body. Feel yourself taking in the air from all around you. Feel that air leaving your body, air that's been changed. As you breathe, what can you feel? Start low. Your feet. Wiggle those toes. Stretch. As you breathe, be aware of your whole torso. Places of comfort, distress. Are you hungry? Thirsty? Feel your arms, your wrists, your fingers. Are you aware of? Neck, your head. How are you doing today? Are you moving toward a good tired? Is there something restless in you? You're feeling in balance. That wasn't that long a time, but that's the place where I think we can understand our busyness a little bit different. Across the mental health and the spiritual disciplines, there is a very special connection. We hear it more and more. We hear this called somatics, not a term that I was particularly familiar with, but it's a thought that we need to steer through this habit of busyness. It's any practice. Somatics is any practice that uses the mind and body connection to help you survey your internal self, to find out if you're feeling in balance. It's a way of getting information. Looking here at Vita and physical therapists and massage therapists, I hear so many folks will tell us that we actually hold our tension and our life experiences somehow, somewhere in your body. Don't know necessarily where it is. Could be in tension, joints, digestive issues. That fatigue that doesn't disappear with a good night's sleep. It's about paying attention in a spiritual way. All of the faith traditions, if you think of the different faith traditions that have rituals, they often use all 5 of our senses. We can get into a habit of just listening and wanting some new content, some new ideas, and ready to get out. But if you think of the traditions of bread and incense, Tai Chi, yoga, they're rituals which foster body and spirit to connect. Where does that take us to as we make our next decision? What happens when we step back from just being so busy that we can understand a little bit more? My gut is that we found our way into this way we are in 2022 about being busy all the time by years of putting productivity in the center. We've prized achievement. We've even centered cycles of good tired and good rest, or being a good tired and wearing ourselves to the bone and then moving forward. Placing our value on success may not be a bad thing, at least success measured these ways, but we need to know when it's a tipping point. When we have got a place that productivity becomes toxic. The trauma center describes that while it's not inappropriate to have a strong work ethic and to have goals, when it starts coming with self-sacrifice, self-sabotaging, and jeopardizing relationships is when it becomes dangerous. Being overly productive at the cost of sleep, health, and relationships is harmful. I think sometimes our lists are our badges of honor. In and of themselves, they are boosting our self-worth, and it's not bad to have good self-worth. That is a good thing. That is a good thing. But when does it distract us from centering some other values of connection? Productivity can, not always, there's no one thing here, distract us from listening to our bodies. And I think in those times, we're also sometimes not centering what we would call often beloved community. We have this vision where everyone is cared for. We have this vision of equity. We have these many ways of being in the world. And a lot of that means we need to pause to make space for kindness, for empathy. And a lot of times to get there, to move toward that vision, involves slowing down rather than ramping up, because we can grow in inclusion more from that basis. There's all these reasons to slow down and all this place of balance, and yet deep inside us, we think if we do more, it might all help things get better, which might be true. Now for a second reading here. It's a reading, a poem by Marge Percy, To Be of Use. The people I love the best jump into work head first without dallying in the shallows and swim off with sure strokes almost out of sight. They seem to be natives of that element, the black, sleek heads of seals bouncing like half-submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves, an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like water buffalo with massive patience, who strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward, who do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals or field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in and the fire must be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the heads, crumbles to dust, the hands crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well, that's done, has a shape that satisfies, is clean and evident. Greek amphoras for wine or oil, Hopi vases that held corn are put in museums, but you know they were meant to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry and a person for work that is real. I think that's where the balance comes in. What is the work or the role or the purpose that feels real to you? How might you find joy, not busyness, when you move in a common rhythm, when the food must come in and the fire be put out? As we listen to our bodies, which are the days that we feel stress, relief, accomplishment? When do things feel aligned? And I think here, I want to circle back to something I wrote in our weekly column this week. Think about those lists in your life, from the small errands and chores to the goals, the big goals of writing a memoir, redoing your landscaping. What if next to each item on your list, you were to put down a little bit of why? Maybe I need to write my minister's report because I want to share with my board, with the board, the excitement, with your board, the excitement of what's been happening. Maybe next to return library books, I want to be a good community member so somebody else can check them out. What if when you think about sending a birthday card, it's about bringing joy to someone else? Even for those of you, and I see Jane Hardy's on here and Darlene, working on the auction for the church to help your congregation thrive. As you stare at your lists, what might you learn? Is the list too full? Where do I need help or support? Do I need something bigger in my life? Do I need something on the list that's not all the little things, but I do want to dive into that big new thing? And where am I already doing good work of building connection and community? I think one of the things we do as a congregation is to help one another go a little deeper. So my invitation today is, when you hear yourself or somebody else saying they're busy, to take that moment and say, busy in what way? Because I wonder, maybe we will be able to find our good tired, followed by good rest, where we sleep well, where our bodies lead us into our next decision as we pay attention to the details, as we pay attention to our bodies. May it be so, and blessed be. I believe now we have a little music. We'll have a little chance for discussion. I'm checking the time here.
Actually, it's not just music, it's another hymn. For
It's
us to
another
sing.
hymn, is it really, Jen?
And this one may be just a little less familiar. So I'm going to ask Al to go through it. And when we sing, after you've gone through it once, we might need all the notes that are a part of it. So Al will play it once and then we'll sing just one verse. It's hymn number 352, Find a Stillness. Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find a silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit moving power, thy will be done on me. Do the second verse. Help me flower, watch me flower, carry me in the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power. I will find to follow did it. The podium is now available for discussion, if anyone would like to come up and share their thoughts.
We do need you at the mic so the Zoom people can hear.
Hi, everybody. I just think that that was a lovely message today, and I want to thank you for that. It was great. And especially spoke to me because I think I'm one of those people that has always been thought of as a busy person. And I used to be really busy, and I was tired, good busy most of the time, not always, but I liked my busyness. But then something happened that really I have now 180 different. So I had 2 retina detachments at 2 different times, several months in between, and I had to lay face down in a massage chair for 7 days, day and night, 24/7, to get this attachment thing going. And, that wasn't easy, but I listened to a lot of music and, I got into it. And I've always tried to meditate here and there in my own ways, usually walking meditation, not laying down meditation. But, so anyway, that happened all just before the COVID thing started. And now I've had 2 years of quiet in the house because of life. And, I'm a new person. I'm much more rested. I sleep much better. Philip can attest. I think I'm just calmer. So I'm okay. Thank you.
Good for you.
Oh, can't see, but.
How uncomfortable. Oh, Nancy. Okay. Look at us hanging.
My friend Judy, who's visiting here today, and I have a little book discussion group going on. Thank you, Con. A book on status. And when you were talking about people being so busy and that it gives them a sense of self-worth, that they have so much on their plate and they're so important, and kind of raising their status, that spoke to me in terms of this book we're reading, and how that status can be somehow unconscious too, that what we're seeking, either that self-confidence or feeling valued by others or increased status because of what we do.
Well, we're talking about a good tired. Well, the thing is, what makes us tired is accomplishing something. Whenever I go see my sister-in-law or my daughter in California, I don't sit around the house all day. I find something to do. And then when I leave, something's done that wasn't done before. So yes, there's visiting in the evening and so forth, but how much visiting can there be if you can leave something that's improved? That's why being a good tired is a good thing, because you have accomplished something. The feeling of accomplishment, I think of my father, he said, retirement is not vacation. Because in retirement, you still keep doing things. People want to be productive. And if you're really productive, you're going to get tired.
That really strikes a chord with me. And I just want to share 2 thoughts that I had. The first is, I grew up in a household with a matriarch grandmother, and her mantra was, loving is doing for others. You just don't sit there and love somebody. You sew something for them, you cook for them, you bring them flowers from your garden. And that's kind of a heavy thing to carry around, but sometimes you can just love because you love and think about loving someone. The other thought is, and in a book club recently, we read Viktor Frankl's The Meaning of Life. And one of the things that he spoke about that really struck me, because I'm at the point in life that he was addressing, was that as you get older, you can't do quite as much. You simply can't, you just got more things going on, or physically you can't, psychologically you can't. And one of the things that he said that he thought was so sad about that was that people, as you said, they value themselves by what they do. And when you can't do, one of the things that he suggested was to sit back and think about what you have done. Review the things that you have accomplished and be happy and glad that you were able to do that.
I think one of the things, Bob, just 1 second. As I thought about this, some of the writers that are writing a lot more about paying attention to your body tend to be Black feminists. And the concept, if you've got inherent worth and dignity, you don't need to earn inherent worth and dignity. And a standard that says one needs to produce and accomplish in order to be loved is part of what gets in the way of us dismantling racism. So I think it's really interesting to know, when is productivity something that feels healthy, and when does it tip to toxic, and who else is being harmed when productivity and accomplishment are centered, is, I think, a complicated question. I don't think it's an easy one. I'm sorry, Bob, you were just about to get it.
I probably shouldn't be coming up here because I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about my wife. I think most of you know my wife is an African American. And she grew up as one of the exceptions to being an African American. She was smart, etc. She got, she was an exception. And I have to tell you, the pressure that was put on her for being an exception is unbelievable. It's not her self-worth that she's worried about. It's the self-worth of everybody, every African American. And she can't give it up. And like I say, I shouldn't be up here, so please don't repeat it.
We only sort of recorded it. It's okay. But I think that speaks to a uniform experience that I had through my husband's family than my own, of middle-class values, and Vita can picture the other side of New Hampshire. I keep looking at Vita today of where that was valued. There were two quotes that I didn't end up using in the sermon, but that I marked in case they fit in here, and they may also help us close out. This book was written by Shauna Niequist. She's a Christian author who sort of got her life less busy over time. She's younger than I am. She says, "Here's what I know. I thought all the doing and the busyness would keep me safe, but I found they keep me numb, which is not the same as safe, which isn't even the greatest thing to aspire to." I think those are some of the concepts I'm hoping we consider. And she goes on later in the book to say, this isn't about working less or more necessarily. This isn't about homemade or takeout, or about full-time or part-time work, or specific ways we choose to live our days. It's about rejecting the myth that every day is a new opportunity to prove our worth, and about the truth that our worth is inherent, given by the holy, and not earned by our hustling. So if there's any final comments online, anybody else? So what I hope is we chew on this, and that part of the biggest message today is to listen to our own bodies. We're being encouraged to do that by very wide groups of folks, because I think sometimes if it's all in our head, we're setting things on a pedestal that don't make sense to the bodies that we've been given. It's a chance to take that breath and find your balance. Our closing words, and then we'll extinguish the chalice, are from Krista Taves. In our work, shared with each other in covenant that creates and sustains this beloved community, we will in a moment extinguish our chalice, but its light lives on in the directions we have chosen. The light of faith lives on in us, together, in our hearts, in our minds, in our bodies, and in our spirits.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us until we meet again.